rebels on you?
Save the rebellion! Save the dream!
Hey guys, welcome to Peter Parker Movie Reviews, and today we're about to talk about Rogue One. Let's talk about the good. The good parts of this film are basically the action, the CGI, and the characters. I'm so amazed by the technology today and by how we can create a whole new character out of just computer animation. It's amazing. Of course, it's never going to be perfect. The uncanny valley is very noticeable, that there's not a real human being there in front of us. But even though it's sort of distracting sometimes, I still understand why they did it. And it's completely fine. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's disrespectful to the actors. Honestly, it's needed. And I understand why they used it in this film. There are some ways you could kind of be more subtle about it. Instead of just showing the full face of the actor, maybe you can just do voiceovers, you can do off-screen interactions, maybe even like the reflection of him on the glass would have been perfect. But when you see him full on, you just notice that CGI, and it's just so distracting sometimes. Usually it takes about 2 to 5 minutes for you to kind of get used to that. And then your eye adjusts to that character and you stop seeing CGI anymore. You just think of the movie. But it does take you out of the movie when you first see the characters. The action is really good in this film. I honestly like a lot of it. Even in the end with Darth Vader, that's got to be my favorite scene out of the entire movie. And maybe the only thing that made me enjoy this movie more than I did, to be honest. The characters were really interesting. They have very interesting layers in them, very interesting backgrounds. They're all very different from each other, and their personalities are very opposite from each other. They're just kind of like a very eclectic mix, and I like that. I like to see fictional characters that are just very different from each other. It just kind of adds a lot of layers to a character, and it makes it really interesting to watch. So let's dig into the bad stuff of this film. There's a lot of stuff that should not be in this film. There's a lot of filler. There is a lot of exposition that is really clunky. The character development is really bad. We get to see these characters for about 30 to 40 minutes, maybe even less. Maybe it's like 15 minutes sometimes. And how am I supposed to kind of invest my emotions into this character when I barely saw him and I barely know who that person is? When you see all these characters become a family and love each other and respect each other and fight together, it doesn't automatically make you invested in the characters. It's a step. It's a step to get there, but it doesn't automatically make me say, oh, I love these characters. I really want them to survive. The only character that actually makes me feel emotionally invested is K2SO. And he's the android. He's not even the human, which is kind of funny how we have all these great actors and this big budget film, and they can't even make me feel invested in them emotionally. Another bad thing about the film was the filler. There is these scenes that are added, and maybe it has to do with the reshoots, maybe it has to do with the producers or the executive producers chopping up the movie in a different way, totally ruined the director's vision. I would say, for example, when the pilot is being interrogated by the rebels and there's this hentai monster with the tentacles that will touch you and can read your feelings and can tell if you're lying or if you're saying the truth. Honestly, I felt like that was completely irrelevant and completely useless to the movie. It's a one-trick pony. It's basically something they had in as visual eye candy, and then that's it. Once it was out of the film, it's like the pilot was like normal, like nothing happened. It didn't affect the story. It didn't affect anything at all. And another thing that was bad about this movie was the exposition and the way to tell a story. There is so much clunky exposition. The way it was done was just so boring and not creative at all. I mean, that's the reason why we use imagery to tell a story. If Up can tell a story in 5 minutes about kids that fall in love, grow up, get married, try to have a baby, they can't, they try to pursue their dream, and the wife dies, and the end, and it makes you feel, it really touches you emotionally. Why can't they do that with 40 minutes of intro to the movie, or even 15 minutes? Why can't they tell a story about the character's background just by using imagery? Another thing that I didn't like about the movie was Felicity Jones and Diego Luna and their chemistry. They're great actors, don't get me wrong. I thought their performances were great. I thought their acting was great, especially when Felicity had this one scene where she sees her dad and this hologram imagery, and how he explains to her that he loves her very much and that he's very sorry about how things happened when she was a young girl, and she starts getting really emotional and cries. That was gold. That was what I really wanted to see in this film. Another thing I didn't like about this movie was the obligatory female power, where the main character is a woman and she's badass and she kicks ass, and that's cool. But do we have to have the guy next to her just crossing his arms and being like, yeah, she's really good, man, she kicks ass? Like, do we really have to have that? No, we don't have to have that. We can just let her do her thing and not have the guy standing right next to her being, wow, she's such a badass. Like, I don't need to see that. I know she's a badass. I don't need your consent. I don't need your agreement to her being a badass. Like, I don't understand what it is with Hollywood having the supporting character or the other main character who is a male saying or agreeing that she's a badass. Like, can we just let her do her thing and, let her be empowered and let her be strong by herself without having the other character having to, act like he's impressed by her skill because she's a woman? Like, it's just kind of stupid. And it was done in so many other movies, including Deadpool. The beginning drags a lot, and I understand that you have to explain your characters and you have to develop your story, but there are ways of doing it, man. There are better ways of doing this. And you have a Star Wars franchise in your hands. You have all these layers and this huge universe. Use that universe to explain a story without having sloppy exposition. I mean, we have all these prequels that George Lucas directed with all these board meetings where they're just sitting around a room talking, blah, 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 just exposition this, exposition that. Like, that is not a good way to make a film, man. You have to use, it's called audio-visual for a reason. It's not narration. For narration, I'd rather just read a book. I give this movie 3 out of 5 stars. And I do love that scene with Darth Vader and then kicking ass and destroying all those people. But was it necessary? No, it wasn't necessary. Was it just kind of a moment to just show off Darth Vader and to just see something cool? Yeah, it was something that was just there to just look cool. That's it. But it didn't add anything to the story. The only thing that added to the story was to see how the pieces connect with the older movies. That I find interesting. The fact that you can see where everything connects from Rogue One to their New Hope. That makes sense. But I'm not gonna lie, that Darth Vader scene was pretty awesome. I think that's the best scene of this movie. Well guys, that was a review for Rogue One. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button and I'll see you on the next one.